Hello and welcome everybody to our stability and stretch class. I am your instructor and coach Quinn Gadler, and we're going to be going through a couple of different movements today that will be working with stability of the hips and the shoulders. So we're going to start with a full torso warm-up, so getting in our spine and abs all warmed up and aligned and working together. And then we're going to work into some stability and activation work. And then we're going to start off with two different circuits today. 4 exercises each, and kind of run through some hip and squatting work. So just getting our hips opened up and working through some linear movement, going back and forth, and then getting a little bit of balancing through both feet side to side, working with a little bit of rotation with our single leg balance and reach. Then we're going to head into our upper body, working on the shoulders, getting our shoulders pulled into a neutral position by activating our back, getting things nice and strong, and then working on our pushing stability and supporting our weight while having that shoulder in a healthy position, doing our IYTs, shoulder taps, plank rotations, and eccentric push-ups, a favorite of mine. Then once we finish both of those circuits, going twice through each of them, we're going to finish off with a little bit of core work, doing some dead bugs, leg raises, and a full body plank. So working on our back, getting things activated all the way through the core, and then trying to connect everything that we've been doing and working on in the session with our nice long plank. So once we finish that, we'll get into a little bit of some deep stretching, probably try to get 5-10 minutes. Opening up the hips, working through some quad tightness, some calf tightness, as well as getting those shoulders and the chest nice and open as well. So if you will join me, please, let's get started. We're going to head down to our hands and knees to start with a cat-cow exercise. Getting our back nice and flat, we're going to suck that belly button to spine and pull the spine up, curving, arching through the torso, and dropping the belly down, tucking those hips out, and bringing our chin and our eyes up to the ceiling, working back and forth, keeping those hands underneath the shoulder, getting a nice big curve, and dropping down, looking back up. Just getting a nice, easy back and forth, trying to relax the body, moving nice and gentle, starting to work the shoulders and the hips, getting some waking up movement there, and finishing out. Good. Next up, we're going to do our hip and shoulder CARs, which is an abbreviation for controlled articular rotation. So we are going to very nice and slow bring our hand out in front with our thumb pointed up, bringing that arm up above the head. As we come up to the shoulder, we're going to open up that palm wide, come back down, and bring the palm facing in as we pass by the hip. Bring that hand down to the ground again. Same arm, we're going to swing back towards the hip, reaching out, coming up, keeping that chest pointed down, flipping the hand around, and coming back to start. Now using our other hand, doing the same thing, reaching out to in front of us, bringing that hand up, palm opening up, rotating around, sweeping down, and dropping to the mat, bringing back, reaching back towards the other hip, opening up, and swinging back around, bringing that hand back down to the ground. Now we're going to bring with the hips. So we're going to start with an extension back behind, bending that knee back in as we come up and over, and coming up, opening up to the side, and extending back down. Getting that leg extended out, opening up, and feeling all of that activation through the inside and the outside of the hip, maybe getting a couple of pops and creaks all sorted out. And before we keep going, I'm just going to make sure that I can see my timer. Unfortunately, my battery is low and I have to turn off low power mode, or else it will shut off on me. All right, great. Last little bit of the warm up here. We're just gonna get into a set of bird dogs. So on our hands and knees, we're gonna extend out opposite hand and leg, creating that nice balance between our planted hand and knee. Sucking that belly button to spine, we're getting a nice tight core and torso. Lowering back down and switching sides, getting that nice extension out, pointing that toe and that fingertip out, trying to create that nice long connection all the way from tip to tip of the hand and foot. We're gonna go one more on each side. Lowering down, just getting a slight pause up at the top. Photo shoot pose. And dropping back down. All right. So now time to get into the hips and the legs. So we're going to start off with a deep squat. So we're going to get our feet. You start with your feet about hip width. We're just going to take one step out to either side. From here, flare the toes out slightly. And we're going to sit back into our chair, trying to drop those hips down as low as they'll go. Once we reach this point, we have a couple of options. You can either keep dropping down and get those hips down, getting your elbows in, spreading those knees out, getting a little shift side to side. I just got a pop in my hip. Or you can bring the hands down to the ground and get your weight forward if you're having trouble sitting all the way back into those hips. So getting those forearm or arms down to the ground, hands on the ground, and pushing those hips into the floor, using those elbows to spread out the knees. Getting a nice long hold here, really opening up the hips. And coming back up, using our hands to bring those hips up and standing all the way tall. Next up, we're going to do our Atg Lunge, which is just going to get a split stance here. And again, I like to go maybe one step back, one step forward, and that's about our starting point. My back heel can come up, and from here, I'm just driving my knee out over the second toe. And see how both my heels are now up off the floor. I'm really trying to collapse that space here behind the knee. So I have my thigh touching the calf, and then I'm driving up through the toes, getting myself back into that same position and lowering myself back down, dropping those hips down toward the ankle. So I'm dropping my hips down at diagonal, so I'm collapsing down towards the ankle and driving back up. We'll go a couple more on this side and then switch. Nice and even. Driving up through the knee. Keeping that weight nice and even over the foot. Not driving out to the side. And switching. Good. Other foot forward. We're going to drive that knee out past the toe. And come back up. Getting a nice big drop down, a little bit of a stretch to the front of the hip. Want to keep our belly button sucked into the spine the whole time here. And driving back and forth. Nice even pace. Last one here. And driving up. Good. Now we're here to work on our single leg balance and stability. The first thing we're going to do is get our hamstrings nice and working and activated. So we're going to get one foot forward, toes pointed up, heel down to the ground. Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun there. That's not how you set up. We're going to get one foot set up as a kickstand here. So if you see on my other leg, I've got my toes just touching the ground, my heels off the floor, and my left leg is completely planted here. Now from here, I'm going to drive my hips back behind, keeping this leg straight, chest straight, back straight, and snap back up. All my weight is here on this leg, And this leg here is just nice and loose, acting as a balancing little kickstand, as I like to call for my RDL that we're performing here. You should be feeling this stretch all along the backside of this leg, and then you're pulling and driving through the heel to get that body back up, getting a nice active contraction through the back of the leg. Go ahead and switch sides. Bring that chest down. Stretching through the hamstring and contracting as we drive back up into a standing position. All right. And finishing out. Good. Next up, we're going to have our single leg balance to reach. So now we're going to get on one foot, bring that other foot out in front, heel pointed down, toes pointed up. We're going to pick it up off the ground and reaching down forward, same motion. We're going to try and touch our fingertips all the way to that toe while maintaining balance on that planted leg. So trying to keep that foot up the whole time, moving back and forth, keeping that belly button sucked in the spine. Nice and easy. You may need to use a chair or a shelf, table to help balance out here. Something to grab onto, make sure you don't fall over all over the place. Go ahead and switch sides. Nice, even pace. Trying to bring that fingertip down towards the toes. Dropping those hips back behind and lowering the chest down towards the ground. Almost there. And finished. Good. Next up, we're going to start back at the top with those deep squats. One last time, opening up those hips. So getting our feet just outside of hip width, toes slightly flared out. We're going to drop those hips down, getting into that deep squat and bringing ourselves forward onto the hands. You should be a little bit more open, more loose. So try and sit back into those heels and really get those hips down towards the ground. Always sitting nice and tall. Belly button sucked to spine, back nice and straight. Trying to get into those hips. Sitting in that deep, deep squat. Working out all the kinks there in the hip. And bringing the hands down to the ground, rocking forward and standing back up. Very good. All right, next up, we've got those Atg lunges. So getting a foot step forward and back, getting our feet nice and split. We're going to drive that knee out over the toe, collapsing the hips down to the ankle and driving back up. Nice even drive and pace, keeping that balance and control. Really working on loading that front leg and keeping that weight over the middle of the foot. It's all right for that heel to come up just a little bit. Switch sides. Nice big stance. Dropping down and driving up. Nice even pace. And finishing out. Good. Next up, we have our single leg RDL. So getting that, got a little lightheaded. Getting that leg planted down. A little loose kickstand here to help us out. We're going to drive those hips back. Back nice and flat and contracting as we swing those hips back up. We want to contract through the back side of the leg. Thinking about the back of the knee, pulling those hips back into place. So you get that pull all the way down the back side of the leg. Nice, even pace. Almost there. And done. All right, same thing. Other side, planting that leg down and swinging those hips back. On the other side. Nice, even pace. Almost there. Couple more here. And done. Very good. All right. Next up, oh, we have our single leg balance reach. Almost jumped again. So getting one foot down on the ground. We're going to extend the other foot out, heel pointed down, toes pointed up. From here, we're going to swing those hips back like we just were, but we're going to reach that hand down towards the toe and come back up, getting a little bit of rotation and movement to our balance here. Trying to cross that hand over and keep that foot up the whole time. Nice, even pace, no rush, nice and controlled. Back and forth. Good. Switching sides, and plant that leg down, heel pointed down to the ground, and dropping that hand to the toe. Nice and even pace. Standing up nice and tall, swinging those hips back, keeping that foot off the ground if you can. And staying nice and even. Good. All right. Next up, we have our shoulder taps, working into the upper body here a little bit. Now you can do these either on your knees with your feet up, or you can bring your feet extended back. I'm just going to go for focus and intent here. So I'm going to keep my knees down on the ground versus really trying to push myself. So for here, I'm just going to bring one hand up off the ground and tap opposite hand to shoulder, getting that weight over the palm of my hands, moving back and forth, really making sure that my shoulders are in a nice locked in position. I'm using my core to stabilize as I shift my weight from side to side. I'm not falling over to either side here. Couple more. And done. All right, now we have our plank rotation. Same thing, you can either extend your feet out or come down to your knees, but we're gonna stay in this hand position here with our chest over the palm of the hand. And from here, you're just gonna rotate up onto one hand, get that stability, hold up at the top, reaching those fingertips to the ceiling and dropping down, rotating the other direction, twisting through the spine, opening up that chest, and switching sides. Moving back and forth, opening up that chest, and reaching all the way through. Shifting side to side, back and forth, keeping that weight directly over the shoulder and the hand. Couple more. And done. All right. Next up, we're going into our IYTs. So we're going to start with our hands extended out in front, thumbs pointed up to the ceiling. We're going to pop our hands up off the ground, coming into an I, pulling up and coming back down, bringing them out to about a 45 for our Ys, popping up, holding, and dropping down. Then out for the T's, popping up, pinching those shoulders together every time, really trying to squeeze through the middle of the back. And extending out again up front for our eyes. Popping up, squeezing those shoulder blades together. Down, coming out for the Y, same thing. We're going to pull those shoulder blades through the middle of the back, keeping the shoulders nice and low away from the ears. Out to the side for our T's, popping up, giving a nice pinch, and really trying to activate that back here. And done. Good. Next up, we're going to do our eccentric push-ups. So, getting our hands directly below the shoulder again. You can have your knees down or feet extended back behind. We're going to get that shoulder or that chest right over the hands here, just outside of the chest. As we lower down, we're going to point those elbows back behind, keeping that belly button stuck to spine. Nice and slow on the way down, holding at the bottom and driving through. Nice even pace as we're trying to drive that weight all the way up through both hands, 50-50 here. A couple more. And done. Good. Starting back at the top, we're going to do our shoulder taps. Staying on our hands and knees. So, opposite hand to shoulder, tapping back and forth. Going at a nice even pace. Just starting to feel that weight and how that feels on the palm of our hands. Driving into the shoulders there. Nice and even, keeping that belly button stuck to spine. Torso nice and tight. Getting some good movement and strength through the shoulder here. Very good. And finishing. Next up, we have our plank rotations. So, staying down on our hands and knees, we're going to drive one hand up, reaching up to the ceiling, extending those fingertips up, and coming down. Rotating to the other side. Extending those fingertips and coming back down. And again, just getting a nice casual rotation back and forth. Extending those fingertips. Holding up at the top. And then coming back down. Very good. Now that we've got the front all warmed up again, we're going to go down to our shoulders. Down to our chest and get our IYT. So thumbs pointed up to the sky. We're going to extend the hands up off the ground, pulling those shoulder blades together through the middle of the back. Coming down, out wide for Ys. Coming up, pinching those shoulders again, keeping them nice and low away from the ears. And out wide. Thumbs still pointed up and squeezing those shoulder blades together, getting the hands up off the ground. Extending back out front, we're going to pop up. Getting that back nice and active. Coming out for the Ys. Popping up. Lowering down. And finally the T's, last one. Keeping those shoulders nice and low, pulling the shoulder blades together. And dropping down. Very good. Last one we're going to do is our eccentric push-ups. So, getting those hands just about shoulder width apart, we're going to lower our chest right between them, sucking that belly button to spine, nice and slow. I like to tap my nose down on the ground if you can, and come back up. Feeling that pressure, nice and slow. As we come down and then driving through. As we come back up. Nice even pace. Just got a couple more. And finished. All right. So we're running a little short on time right now. And we're just going to do a set of dead bugs and get a quick stretch. All right. So laying down onto our back, we're going to bring our feet up into the air at a 90 degrees from our knees. Bring the hands on top of the knees here. And we're going to alternate opposite hand and leg, extending out, working together, just like those bird dogs, but just challenging a different area of the body here. Working into those lower abdominal muscles and a little bit of the hip flexors as well as we pull those knees back up into their position. Really trying to suck that belly button to spine, pulling that lower back into the ground. We got a couple more here. Almost done. And finished. All right. Time to stretch things out. So very quickly, first one we're going to do is going to be our hurdler stretch. So pulling our leg back behind, we're going to slowly lower ourselves down to the ground. If you can't get all the way down to the ground, hold yourself up on your knee or on your elbows or up onto your hands and work your way into a comfortable stretching position. I know comfortable and stretching sounds a little counterintuitive, but I promise you, you'll get there. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, feeling that tightness, appreciating that it's there, and focusing on relaxing that area. Just like in life, sometimes you need to realize when you have tension, stress, and turmoil, sometimes you need to focus on it and give attention to it and just sort of let it sort itself out. Rolling out to the side, we're going to extend the other leg out, coming up, folding our other leg back, and gently, slowly lowering ourselves down into that comfortable stretching position. Getting a nice stretch through the front of the leg, getting into the quads, the hip flexors, everything. Nice big deep breaths. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And rolling out to the side, extending that leg back out and sitting back up. The last ones we're going to do is just a quick hamstring stretch on either side, bringing one foot in towards the hip and reaching out towards our toes. Getting a nice big stretch to the back of the leg. And switching sides. Extending that opposite leg out, bringing our other leg in and reaching out. And relaxing. All right. Very good. Thank you guys so much for hopping in today. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, critiques, go ahead, leave a comment below. We'll get your questions answered as quick as we can.
I hope you have a great day and a wonderful rest of your week.